seven people in there. There he is. We have 7 people in the room this morning that are finishing this program as of today. And so it's exciting to give them the opportunity to tell some of their story. And so some of them prepared, some of them might be winging it, but either way, I'm excited to hear what they're going to say. And this is an opportunity for the rest of you to ask some questions and to probe, something that you're maybe curious about in the story that they tell. But I'm really proud of these guys, and having been able to follow them over these last 4 years, it's a privilege to be able to celebrate with them as they're up here today. So Caleb's going to start, and so let's welcome him up, and we'll get rolling.
All right, happy Friday, fellas. Caleb Olds, I'm 21 years old, and I work for Ames Construction, doing highway heavy. I got my 7,000 hours 5 months ago, finished my epic during 2-4. Now that the boring stuff's out of the way, I'm just going to tell you my little story. I wrote a little something like at 9:30 last night, so bear with me if it sounds a little goofy. All right, here we go. I had the very good role model to follow, which was my dad. He was a union carpenter for 20 plus years. From a young age, if I wanted to or not, I was always helping him out around the house doing small projects. At the age of 15, after a long fight with breast cancer, I lost my mom. From that point on, it was really hard to apply myself in school with my dad working as much as he could just to pay the bills. Well, you could say it sucked, but the one thing that kept me going were trade classes in high school. I knew right away that I wanted to work with my hands. When I turned 16, I was able to take college carpentry classes. I'd be there in the morning and at high school the other half of the day. The summer of my sophomore year, my college instructors introduced me to a small company that built post-frame buildings. I started the day school got over with, worked all summer. I became a sponge, just trying to absorb everything I could. School started back up, and that was that. Let's see. Hold on, I'll track here. I figured out 1 month before winter break at high school that college got over with. And from there, I went to work in the morning building post frames. And then in the afternoon, I went to high school. I always thought it was funny showing up to school all sweaty and dirty with work boots on. But anyways, that went on until I was a senior. I graduated in December. And at that time, my dad was working in Council Bluffs, Iowa for Ames. And I was making $18 an hour debating if I wanted to join the union or keep building post frames. Ultimately, my dad talked me into joining the union, and week after I turned 18 in March, my dad and I drove up from Iowa so I could join Local 322 and start with Ames. I realized really quick that Ames was a lot different from post frames, not so much the pace of work, but safety wise, like spending 3 hours to put handrail up in the middle of nowhere on an MSC wall, no one was working around. But I got used to it though. I spent the next 2 years as a sponge. At the end of my first year, something clicked in my head. I started understanding a lot more, which made the job a lot easier. I took everything as a challenge and did everything with 110% effort. Towards the end of the job, I became really concerned on what I was going to do. Soups were always talking about work in North Dakota, but I really didn't want to go up there and freeze my ass off. So at that time, I was going to try and find work around Iowa, somewhere close to home, until about a week before layoffs, my foreman asked me about North Carolina. He told me how much per diem was going to be, and before he could finish his sentence, I was already packing the bags in my mind. I had about 2 weeks until I had to be out there, so not much time. I went out, bought a camper, hit the road, 17 hours away from home. It was very rough at nights, but that didn't matter since I worked what felt like all the hours in the day. about a month in, I was able to talk my girlfriend into coming to live with me in a 24-foot camper, which made life a lot easier. I couldn't do it without her. From there, I got sent down to Georgia for about a week to help a foreman out who was struggling with manpower, needed to make a pour. But I didn't know at the time that this foreman was the regional manager's brother. He apparently must have put in a good word, because from there, I was sent to a different job in North Carolina where I was very unexpectedly thrown into running a crew. I wouldn't say I was a foreman, but more or less just someone who cared more than everybody else. Make a long story short, about 3 months ago, I found a lot more confidence in myself. My soup started having a lot more trust in me. In May, I will have hopefully my last foreman and training review through Ames, and get a truck that's basically mine and a gas card. Well, wraps it up. Questions?
What kind of per diems? So for somebody that's maybe interested in the highway heavy lane, pun intended, and in understanding what some of the financials are around that, like, what are the per diems and what's the financial incentive for traveling on a job like that for you?
I know for the locals down there, it's like $100 a day, but since I wasn't traveling from all the way out here, I probably 2,800 a month for per diem. So really good. So that whole packing bags thing in my mind is like, I'm there.
Was it tough, like navigating, coming back for training and such being, because you worked most of your apprenticeship hours, you worked out of state, you weren't.
Yeah, I was never here. Yeah, it kind of sucked. When I lived in Iowa, it definitely sucked driving up here. And then being out there, I mean, I kind of look at it as a nice break away. So
Do you think you're gonna continue to travel?
yeah,
Yeah.
probably. That would be stupid not to. So
You got the girlfriend and the dog with you.
yeah. Yeah, they're down for the ride, so. Great. Anybody else?
No questions? And Caleb, you've got your hours in Epic, so today's
Yep.
the day,
I'm done.
you're done then.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Congrats, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No hablo inglés. Hello, good morning. My name is Rafael Hernandez. I'm a winger today. I didn't write nothing down today. But I started off with Advance. They're a roofing company, and it was like about 2-3 months. And I was like, roofing isn't for me. I'm up in the roof. It's burning. It's hot. I feel unsafe. And then I decided to go into drywall, and drywall was like my home. I found my place in the union, and that's what it was. How did I join? So before the union, I was working non-union, making about $15 an hour, doing bitch work, being a laborer pretty much, throwing garbage. If they needed a tool, I had to run to the truck, go get it. They needed material, I was that guy. And it seemed like they didn't really want to teach like they do here in the union. Like they were gatekeeping all their, in Spanish you call it mañas, all the little tricks that they have. And I came into the union, I was like, dang, I wish I would have had this in non-union, where they would teach me little tricks here and there to make me a better carpenter, to help me and my apprentices that I have here on and off. I mean, it was a good experience. If I didn't go through my non-union phase, I wouldn't be able to be here and give it all my best now that I'm here in the union. What do I like about the training? I like how the teachers help you one-on-one when you're challenging, when you're challenged with something and you don't understand it. I'm not the best reader, or I'm not the best at trying to understand something like as a screen. I think I get taught better if I'm like monkey sees what monkey does, you know what I mean? Mm, how many hours I got? I got 4,700 hours. It's a low. Don't be like me, get your hours done. It happens. In the future, well, I like to run work, but if it's not what it is, not if it's not my path, then it is what it is. I'll just be a worker. I like working. I like what I do. Some advice that I would give: challenge yourself. Don't take the easy path. Don't don't think like, oh, I'm I'm not getting it. I'm slow. Or I can't get it. I know it's life. Every day you get challenged with something and you have to overcome it. Like today, I don't like public speaking, but I gotta speak today with you guys. I mean, other than that, that's pretty much it. Is there any questions?
Rap, if there was one person that you worked with in the last 4 years that you feel like kind of helped you in the field, not here, but like in the field, was there a contractor, was it somebody that you would kind of give a shout out to?
Yeah, I think commercial drywall, all those guys over there, really good people. I worked with a lot of Mexicans, a lot of white folks, and they wouldn't gatekeep their skills. They wouldn't gatekeep their little tricks that they had. They'd be like, I want you to become a better carpenter and I want you to become a better person in life. I'm gonna give you some advice, not just in carpentry, but like in life skills or whatever it is. And I took that to heart and I keep those little tricks that they give me.
I might ask any of you guys this, or if you comment on it, I appreciate that. The connection that you all have had kind of with one another and coming up with the, roughly the same group in class. Can you just say what, the impact of having those connections, through training and stuff has meant to you?
Well, this group of boys right here is like a little family. Like we joke around, we play around with each other, but when it's time to get down to business and time to work, we work. You know, if I have questions and I don't want to go up to Dan and be like, "Hey, I got a question," I can come up to these guys and they'll jump the gun to come and help me right away. So I'm grateful for them. Without them, I don't think I would be graduating. Any more questions?
Can you, so 4,700 hours, were there decisions that you made to take a layoff, or did you believe that a contractor was gonna bring you back longer than you should have? Like what,
Yeah, so it was in the first year, or I got laid off with that. I didn't get laid off. I walked out that job at roofing, and it was a struggle to get back into the union. I had to call companies, and it was pretty much me begging, like, "Hey, give me a chance. I won't let you down." And then commercial gave me a chance, and it was a beautiful long 3 years. And then I got laid off again, and I was waiting on them and I couldn't wait no more and I had to go work some side jobs to keep my money up. But now I'm gonna start this new company on Monday and hopefully wrap up my hours with them. Yeah, thank you.
Right, hi, I'm Alex Wyden. I started. Okay, so after high school, I went into college. I wanted to get a music degree and be a recording engineer in music studios. And kind of the long process of going through that degree, just realized that's kind of a dead industry. Um, every artist can get a laptop and a program and do it themselves. So they don't really need to pay producers anymore. And it was just a long time going to college and working shady part-time jobs, customer-based jobs, and really hated it without even realizing I hated doing it. Um, but I had a buddy that I've known since middle school, and he started the Carpenters Union right away after high school, and just seeing his success over the years since high school and being foreman made me want to do it. I did do some summers of pre-apprentice work in college to get my tuition money. And towards the end, I just realized I liked doing that more, even though I wasn't learning anything as a pre-apprentice. I was just the gopher, you know. Um, so I had stopped going to college. I realized I didn't want to finish the degree, and I was still uh, working the breakfast line at Hy-Vee. And it's one morning, this old lady's complaining about how the omelets are made, and I just realized, like, what am I doing? I'm sitting here at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday morning getting crap from this lady about an omelet. So I I went home and I called up my stepbrother, who's a project estimator at Mulcahy, and asked if work was picking up in the spring for him, if they were going to be hiring apprentices. He said yeah, so I drove up, signed all the paperwork, and yeah, about 2 weeks notice, I got boots on the ground on the job, and spent my first entire summer just crawling around on my knees on a 10-story apartment, fire caulking. And then I got laid off at the end of that job in October. Didn't really know how to do much yet other than fire caulk, so it was tough finding job in this low season. So I got a job off the dispatch line, Mix 2020 at the time. And I got sent out to the nuclear power plant down in Red Wing, rebuilding the cooling tower. That one sucked at first because that was the first introduction to like real physical work. Still wasn't anything like technical, like learning how to do things. It was just move material around and bolt them together. But towards the end of that, I actually started having fun with that. And then end of that job, got laid off at the end of it, and then got back in at Mulcahy, and then I actually started doing sheetrock there. And doing that, I was starting to actually have a lot more fun doing this. Got laid off from them again in the middle of the summer and decided I wasn't going to go back to them. But a little bit later, I got hired at Nordstrom Metal doing architectural siding. And I've been there ever since, and that's been honestly my favorite. Learning a lot there. All my foremen there are great, so I actually see myself trying to be foreman there someday. So I'm looking at starting to run smaller jobs on my own and maybe work my way up to being foreman. And after this week, I have my epic done. We all did our epics during our 3-4 week, so that was easy. Yeah, after today, I need 1,039 hours and 38 minutes before adjournment. So got the countdown going.
Good count.
That's about all I got, so I'll take some questions. I like it.
Yeah, that's smart.
it takes a while to get to learn it, but, you know, you just start doing it, repetition, eventually you start figuring it all out. Like one day it really just clicked for me in my head, and it's actually been kind of a breeze ever since. A couple. Small ones. Yeah. Yep.
Your shirt, can you talk about that just a little bit? Like, was it what you expected? What was it like being at the International Training Center?
Well, I didn't really know fully what to expect, so I guess I was excited to go, and it was a good experience. I recommend doing it. Don't really recommend doing it right before an election, but, because they were, very, very hard, like, talking a lot about all that stuff, but it was, cool going there and learning some more of the history of the union, and, especially talking with people from different areas. It was all a Midwest group, but, you know, people from, like the Chicago area or Michigan, there's some other areas that we don't really hear from. So, but yeah, it's, interesting hearing just like different ways people think about how to do their work or how to behave on the job. There's one guy that the entire time, he just was always like, oh, when I'm on the job, you know, I try to make sure I know what I'm doing. Everyone sees I know what I'm doing, and I don't need to ask for help or anything. I figure it out on my own. And I kind of said something. I was like, well, part of being an apprentice is you don't show up on the job with all the knowledge pre-downloaded in your head. You're there to learn, and journeymen are there to teach. So, yeah, it was a fun time.
You being that journeyman, right, that's out in the field and showing people how to do.
I try to be. Yeah. It makes everyone else's work. I have a foreman that says my job's easier when you know how to do your job, and that's definitely a mentality I'm gonna take going forward.
When you look back on the experience of being in training, what are the things that stand out to you? Or what will you miss about the change that you had to be here?
Well, for many years in college, these 4 years in training are a lot better, and especially you guys, you instructors. The instructors here are better teachers than almost like 90% of the teachers I had in like K through 12 and in college too. I think the program here is a much better way to educate and get experience than most schooling. And then, yeah, seeing these guys every 3 months, I'm gonna miss it. Looking forward to, running into each other on the job sites. Maybe not so much Nolan, he's always up in St. Cloud, but, yeah.
Maybe.
Come get that Metro scap. Alright, yeah, no, it's been fun, and the hands-on learning and everything, it's definitely the way for me. Thank you.
All right. My name is Nolan Sabo. I work for St. Cloud Acoustics. I've worked there my whole apprenticeship, so like 4 years now. I got into the union. I worked non-union for 2 years out of high school, and then they laid off all their carpenters randomly, just wanted to strictly subcontract everything out. So I was out of the job. One of the soups there told St. Cloud Acoustics I'd be looking for work, so I gave him my number, and I went in for the interview, didn't know anything about the union, just kind of the bad things that, non-union guys have said, you got to pay a buttload in dues and all that stuff. So didn't really know too much about it, but they told me about the training program, and seemed like a good deal. So yeah, best decision of my life so far. So I got my Epic done. I got about 6,000 hours in. Um, my advice would be to talk to the instructors as much as you can. They're all super knowledgeable. They'll help you with, questions you have about work, house projects, projects you got going on. They'll answer all your questions. So talk to them as much as possible. They're a really good resource. And plans for the future. Keep working at St. Cloud Acoustics. They treat me good, good hours, pays good for what I do. It's fairly simple work doing acoustic ceilings. Outside of the union, I've been working on remodeling foreclosure house, so that'll be done in about a month here. So I'll move in and then other than that, go to Europe in a month here too and propose to my girlfriend. So that's the plans for the future. So yeah, any questions? She kind of knows. I mean, she doesn't know when, but we like went and picked out a ring like 2 weeks ago or something. So she knows it's coming, just not when. So yeah. Any questions?
Is most of your work, Nolan, in St. Cloud or in the metro?
Recently it's been a lot more in St. Cloud, but a lot of times it's up in like Brainerd or Alexandria or Wilmer. A lot of times we're driving about 45 an hour to wherever, but yeah, a lot of St. Cloud work right now. Last summer we were in the metro a lot, or metro scale, I guess. We were in like Rogers and Buffalo and stuff, which was really nice. It's about as far north as you can go and still get paid metro scale. So that extra money in the bank account was pretty good. So yeah. Any other questions? All right.
All right. My name is Wai Yang. First, I would like to say thank you to all the instructors for all the knowledge you guys gave it to me. I was born and raised in Thailand. I came here when I was 18 years old. I was introduced to the union by my uncle, Bonga Moore, and was sponsored by Brand Safe Way. It's a scaffold company. I did scaffold for them for 6 months, and then before I'm leaving to work at the cooling tower for more hours. After that project was done, I was laid off for the whole summer, and then finally I got hired by Apton in the refinery. I love the hour that we work over there, 410. I enjoy my 3 days weekend. And every years, we have like 2 turnarounds. One will be in spring, then one will be in fall, like September. The spring one will take like 4 to 6 weeks. And then the fall one will be like 6 to 8, it depends. The unit that you're in, sometimes it can go all the way to December. During a turnaround, we work like 10 to 12 hours a day. So we have like a day shift, night shift, and then we work 14 days straight, and then you get 1 day off. Then, for my hours, I got 6,145 hours. Hopefully I get it done by this July. For my future plans, nothing yet. Just gonna keep working. That's it.
Are you still with Apton?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. How do you, like, what are your days like doing scaffold work? If you were gonna explain it to anybody here that hasn't done scaffold, what's it like working at the refinery?
Uh, I say some days suck. Like,
Yeah.
it's overtime for pants. It's just work like the whole day, like pants, passing parts, building. Some days it's just like hiding, doing nothing. Just, I don't know. It's just easy day and worse.
It's a pretty high pace,
Pretty high pay.
fast.
What do you mean? Like,
You guys are running past some parts or?
yep. That's it.
How's it going, everyone? My name is John Ulrich. I guess I'll start this off by saying thank you to all the instructors. You really make it a lot better being here. And also my sister and my brother-in-law, I'll probably send them this video later, and my wife. I wouldn't be here without them, not in like a bad way, just I probably wouldn't be in the union or doing construction. But especially my wife, she does a lot, and I kind of took a pay cut doing this stuff for like the first 2 years. So definitely wouldn't be where we are right now without her. I started with Frericks in 22 of April. Was with them a couple years, like on and off. Got laid off from them numerous times because it's kind of inconsistent. Couldn't really do that anymore with the inconsistency with apprentices. I wasn't really a travel guy for them, at least how they travel. So that didn't work out too well. Worked a couple different companies, PPI for a couple months, worked with Dunlar for a couple months, worked at Nordstrom for a couple months. But now I'm at Callington, and I really like it there. It's more just, it's finish and rough. Right now it's more rough carpentry just because the trim work is, I think we're waiting on some jobs to start. Probably should have wrote something down, but I started before the union. I was doing non-union work for a concrete company, just a mom and pop shop. That was more just like steps, sidewalk, driveway, stuff like that. That kind of got me into construction. Before that, I went to college. I went to Mankato. I played football there, and my dad was in the union for 20 years. So I was trying my hardest not to do this, like just as far away I can get from construction, because I kind of just grew up. I don't want to be like him. And I appreciate the college aspect of it, because I'm kind of a firm believer that I'm here like for a reason, like in this moment, like it's not like, oh, I wish I would have got in 5 years ago, because I might have been a different person. I don't where I am right now. I appreciate the experience I got from college. I got my degree in exercise science. Was a strength and conditioning coach for the school. I trained the hockey team and various other teams. But I didn't want to do that. It's really hard going from football to like a really high intense atmosphere. And then you have to train a completely different team, like a cross country team or like a basketball team, where it's a completely different atmosphere as far as like weightlifting goes. And the hours are long, every day, Saturdays, and the pay isn't that great for what you have to do. Because it's not just training them. You have to make all the programs for them. It's a lot of work at home. It's like your day is 5 to 5, and then it's another 5 to 8 after that, So I didn't want to do that for my whole life. I kind of naturally grasped construction because I was around my dad. So I kind of used to a lot of the different work. But yeah, I didn't want to do that. So I ended up here. And I'm really thankful I know all this, because it's kind of cool at the end of all this. You kind of know how to do everything, a little bit of everything. It's people always have like, oh, what could you change about the school? It's kind of hard to make, you know, a truly experienced carpenter, there's like a week of school at a time, right? They can only give you bits and pieces. But if you take those bits and pieces, it'll prepare you for things you're not expecting. Like for example, I did scaffold, that's like 2-1. No intention of being a scaffold guy. Sorry why. But I did that class, and then through just a random layoff, 6-7 months from that class that you can't predict, I found myself going to Iowa at a power plant, you know, just doing a turnaround there for 2 weeks, you know, and it would have been really hard doing that if I didn't know scaffold at all. But because I took the class, and yeah, you're not going to remember everything. You're just, it's impossible, you know, but through like a shift or two, then it's like, okay, it kind of refreshes your memory. You kind of remember what to do. It makes it easier. And yeah, like I said, I'm with Kellington right now. I really like what I'm doing. I don't really like to predict the future too much because, you know, like 5 years ago, I wasn't in the union. I was doing concrete work. I was kind of happy with what I was doing. Life was kind of easy. But eventually, I guess I'd probably be a foreman in some regard. I don't really want to be a soup for a general contractor at all. That's just too much of a headache, from what I see. They're needed, of course, but in my current situation, I just, you know, I'm having kids right now. I got one in July coming. It's just not worth it to me to take on all that responsibility with trying to focus on being a dad. Maybe if they were like in high school, you know, like 10, 15 years from now, maybe. But right now, no, I'm cool with what I'm doing right now. Trying to think of some advice. If you want to take on more work, you know, have your bosses see that. It's kind of like the little things that mean the most. Like, do you show up on time? Do you actually give a shit? You know, you find those guys real quick. Like, do you complain all the fucking time? You know, like it takes that extra little, just that little bit of effort to put yourself in a better position. You know, do you know how to read the prints? You know, if you don't know, well, do you take 5-10 minutes just to look it over again? Like, what are the other guys even talking about? Like, what does this even look like? What does it mean? You know, it's that little bit that'll prepare you for a job you're not expecting. Kind of like the scaffold thing that I talked about earlier. It's, you know, if you take a little bit of time, you may not see it in a week or a month, but 6 months from now, when your boss puts you in a position to do more work, well, good thing 6 months ago you took 5 minutes to look at the print, you know, look at the iPad. Like, okay, this kind of makes sense. You know, this roofing blocking, window blocking detail looks the same as the last job. So those things matter, even though they might be a drag in the moment, but they do. That's, oh, I skipped over the hours. I have somewhere around 5,500. I don't really keep track too much until I know I'm close. Did my Epic, like I said, we all did it together. Yeah, it's kind of all I got.
How did is this what your dad wanted you to do? Like, how does your dad feel about you being in the union and kind of following his footsteps? Is he proud of that?
I think he's okay with it. To be honest, like we don't really talk much.
Oh,
Yeah, it's just we're just completely opposite people. Yeah.
what about your experience in that third year? Like I asked Alec, but you got the third year sweatshirt on. Are you glad that you went?
Yeah, it's really cool learning about like how this even exists. You know, people that laid the groundwork, you know, kind of busted their ass to be where we are right now. As far as like the leadership and, you know, the team, the camaraderie, that's good to learn. It was more specifically for me, is more redundant because I already went through football. So it's, I don't know, like the buy-in for that is more than it is here. I don't mean that in a bad way, but I already know all that stuff to be a good leader, be a good team member, you know, it's kind of more just common sense. Like you don't need to wake up in the morning and be an asshole. It's not that hard. This job is not that hard. At least that's how I see it. But I think it's worth it going. Just it's 2 days out of your time. You'll learn. You might learn more. You might learn just one thing, but it might surprise you. You know. So I think the third year is worth it. I don't know too much about the next one. I haven't really asked about it, but plan on going sometime. Hmm. I'll give you like 2 instances. I'll give you 2 instances for that. I'd probably do framing again. Probably do wood framing again. It's always good to brush up on that because that's never going to go away, especially the layout. You know, like whether you're working with steel studs or just wood, it's always going to be there. And you'll be surprised on when you get on a job site how many guys are not comfortable like laying something out and just like stick framing. You know, I know a lot of things they come pre-fab packs and with a crane. I get that. But if you're put in a situation where you got to stick frame something, that's also unorthodox. You know, if you're on a roof, you're in like rehabbing an old house and there wasn't any rules like 80 years ago. So you got to figure out how do I connect this peak to that peak? You know, that's where that class might come in handy to remember like, hey, how do I even do this? It's like, all right, well, you know, just kind of go through the process of school. Read if I could retake another class specifically though, would be probably blueprint reading. But I'd like to see some change to that class before I took it. But it's such an important part of what we do. If you have any desire to move up, and even like not even move up, it's just natural of like your boss asking you, hey, can you go do this real quick? Well, if you don't know how to read the print, you're kind of useless, to be honest. And it's not that hard, especially like at a baseline level. But I feel like that class doesn't really prepare you that well for like in the field where it actually means something, unless you're like a general soup, but there aren't too many 1-2 soups out there. So those are 2 classes I would change.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of agree with him, like blueprint, I kind of want to do like upgrade blueprint. I feel like, yeah, 1-2 is a good like intro to it, but then now it's like a 4-4, kind of looking back, I remember most of it, but definitely be good to get a refresher and learn a little bit more in depth, you know, now that we're probably gonna be taking on bigger roles at companies and stuff, so I think that'd be pretty good.
Also, one more tangent. I've jumped around a couple different companies. I was Ferrex. I started with them, and my personality is pretty loyal. So I like to be with that company and give them a fair shot, right? But if I could give advice to my younger self, or like 4 years ago, don't be afraid to leave. Be way more loyal to your hours than the company, right? I know it's hard to notice a bad situation when you're in it and looking back, but don't be afraid to talk to your friends, talk to your teachers, and just move jobs. You know, if you're finding inconsistencies with one company, they're not going to change. They're doing what they're doing for a reason. So they're not going to change what they do for you, most likely. So find a different thing because you may like something else. You know, maybe you're doing framing right now and you really like steel studs, or maybe you're doing steel studs right now and you really like roofing or concrete. You know, or finished trim work. You know, you may like something you're not doing right now. But you don't have to take the shit from contractors that, you know, are treating you a certain way or expecting something of you that's like unnecessary. I'm not like trying to shit talk companies, but like Ferrex will want you, you'll have to have your own tools and shit. That's just unreal. Looking back, it's ridiculous. But in the moment, I'm like, yeah, I'll bring my shit. That's fine. I'll do it.
You mean power tools?
Yeah, like power tools specifically. I don't mean like, yeah, you had to show basically camera and tape measure, of course. But you know, like I started with them and they want me to spend like $300 on tools, and they laid me off like 6 weeks into it. you know, it's really shitty buying a multi-tool that you don't use because you got laid off. So I was kind of on and off with them for a while, but looking back, I should have left a lot sooner. But yeah, you don't, the relationships in here matter as far as finding new jobs. I know that's really hard when you don't know anybody. You know, I get that. You don't know the ins and outs of like Mix 2020. But your instructors and your classmates will help you. You know, like I'm at Kellington right now because of Amanda, because I called her. Like, hey, do you know hiring? Like, you know, I got a mortgage to pay, so you know, I need a job. She gave me a number, and I called them, and I had a job within like a day. And that's you don't expect that, you know. I wasn't banking on Amanda to have a job for me, you know. It's just, but you got to make that call, and you got to build up that relationship, you know. Like if you're an asshole here, the teachers can help you, but they're not gonna. No one's gonna just be like, oh yeah, I'll go the extra mile for you to help you. But that would be words of advice, I guess.
I think similar, that what John was saying about, trying, like, don't be overly loyal to a company if they're not good. But, also try to recognize, bad journeymen or leaders in the field. If you see a journeyman that's doing really hacky work, low quality work, or just, you know, never wears their bags. It's always walking around getting different tools and things. Don't be like them. Just recognize what journeyman you want to be like, what foreman you want to be like. Do what they do. If you see others that are doing just worse work ethic things, do the opposite of that. Because John was with us at Northstone for like 3 months. He was doing good. He was getting along with everyone and like learning pretty quickly. And then he got put with one journeyman that was only with us for a couple months, and this journeyman was really happy. Never wore his bags or anything, and then our PM came by the site and saw them two in a scissor lift doing party siding, which John hadn't learned yet. And just based on what our PM saw on that wall and what they were doing, paid them both off. Everyone on our crew knew John didn't deserve that at all. He was having a good time working with us, and just kind of the piece of advice I have is recognize when you see other workers not doing good work, or even say something like, yeah, that type of stuff fly or whatever. But just do what you can to make yourself look good on the job, and your foreman, your other workers, they see it.
I have a question. Said, want to avoid doing this kind of work. What was like previously the process on that? Have you been expecting this to be working?
The main driving force, I think, for that, well, obviously the people close to my life kind of were, no, I got a knack for this. But having a family, it's really hard being a seasonal worker, trying to actually put yourself in a position to have a family. So like, I mean, yeah, I took a pay cut for the first like maybe year. That's like on the check, you know, but being in the union is like a long-term thing, you know, so like, I mean, right now I'm in a way better position than I was if I just was still doing concrete work. So yeah, just kind of thinking about the future a little bit in that regard, like especially like just as family, it's way easier here than non-resident, than non-union work. Questions?